7:41 now. Donald Trump is the first president of the United States to be impeached twice. And now, in 2 weeks, a trial will get underway. The House passed an impeachment article charging the former president with incitement of insurrection following the deadly riots at the Capitol on January 6th. If convicted, he could be permanently barred from holding public office ever again. Joining me live this morning is Dr. Laura Merrifield Wilson, Associate Professor of Political Science at UIndy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, the second impeachment trial of former President Trump begins in about 2 weeks, but some actions happen this week, today, in fact. So what are we going to see before then?
Sure. Well, today, of course, is the delivery itself of the impeachment articles. They came from the House and they'll be going to the Senate. Tomorrow, we'll look forward to seeing the senators being sworn in and the insurances of the summon. And then you have this gap period because this was requested from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. And he asked for more time for President Donald Trump to prepare his statements and prepare everything that his trial will need. And this also is great. President Joe Biden agreed to this because it allows for him time to do things as part of his new administration that aren't actually related to the impeachment. And so it's an unusual timeline in some ways, but many of these things, of course, happen as are circumstantial, and that's exactly what we're seeing right here.
Now, the single charge is incitement of insurrection. So let's look at both sides here. What evidence do Democrats say support this charge? What will former President Trump's lawyers say in his defense?
Yes, the argument is going to be, what role did the president play? And the Democrats that support this charge say it was his language, it was his words, he told them, he encouraged them. Of course, President Donald Trump will say, no, well, he wasn't there, he didn't actually participate. And when you look with what the former president will say versus what some of the Democrats will say, the big question is going to be how much you think his words and everything that he'd said led to the actions that we saw, of course, in the insurrection.
Now, to convict Donald Trump in the Senate, even if all 50 Democrats vote for conviction, 17 Republicans also have to vote to convict. So looking right now, do you see that happening?
I try to refrain from that kind of speculation, but I would say it's very challenging because it's not just that simple majority, which would be 51, right? Having a supermajority is very difficult to get. That means you have to have a lot of people come from both sides of the aisle. And we could expect the Democrats would support this, but to find 17 Republicans would be very difficult to do.
Now, waiting to start this process, again, 2 weeks, this does allow for other actions to be taken by the Biden administration that aren't impeachment related. A lot of these, we've seen so many actions on COVID already. So what else could we see in the meantime?
Well, certainly this is one of the reasons why President Biden agreed to that time for former President Donald Trump to get things together. And this allows for him to go through with some of his policies. He's been very proactive in terms of things on climate control and the environment. Of course, you mentioned COVID, which is really important for him. He talked about these massive goals for vaccinations just in his first 100 days in office. And of course, that timeline is already ticking. So this allows him to get through some of those cabinet positions, some of his policies, and other things that he really wants to do to start his administration.